coming up on this edition of Southwest TV News.
Take a day where you have days, like a real cold day, say a day below -30. There have been none of those days in Swift Current, for example, this winter. And last year we had 7 of those suckers by this time.
The month of January is quickly drawing to a close. And so far, we've experienced a milder than normal winter across Southwest Saskatchewan. Dementia and Alzheimer cases are being diagnosed more frequently across the nation. And the Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan is suggesting a healthier lifestyle can coincide with a healthy brain. A documentary focusing on the story of Grasslands National Park was recently premiered at the Swift Current Museum and drew in a crowd for the evening presentation. Thanks for joining us here today. Well, so far, the winter of 2018-19 has been milder than normal here in Southwest Saskatchewan. And in this report, we speak with Environment Canada to see what the long-term weather outlook is. The month of January is quickly drawing to a close. And so far, we've experienced a milder than normal winter across Southwest Saskatchewan. And through our discussions with Environment Canada, we take a more in-depth look into this weather pattern across the Southwest.
Winter season began in December and January, and it's clearly been missing in action. I think there's so many different ways of looking at it. Let me just share a couple of numbers with you to illustrate the point. Take a day where you have days, like a real cold day, say a day below -30. There have been none of those days in Swift Current, for example, this winter. And last year we had 7 of those suckers by this time. And normally you would typically see about 4 by this time. So it's almost as if winter arrives now. It won't seem nearly as long because, hey, you really haven't had much of a winter. Certainly, to think that you've had no days below -30 when last year you had 7, including a temperature of -36.6 last winter, tells you that it's been rather balmy, open, soft. It shows you that even a weak El Nino is bringing you more Pacific and southerly air, and it certainly has been milder, and you haven't been getting the polar vortex that we're experiencing right now in eastern Canada.
And as the days gradually get longer and we make the countdown to spring's arrival, we take a look at the long-term weather outlook.
The models seem to suggest more of the same. That is, as I say, the further west you are, more of the influence of Pacific air, and so less cold air. And further east, we think it is going to be, a little cooler, maybe seasonable to cooler than normal. We are in Swift Current now, beyond the halfway point of winter. That typically occurred about 10 days ago, and so now we can honestly say there's more winter behind us than ahead of us. It doesn't mean you're not going to get some cold weather. I mean, that's in the cards. There's always the Pacific air, and we'll duke it out with Arctic air, and sometimes the Arctic air will win. Now, on a precipitation note, there's even some good news from this year. If I go back to September right through to now, I've seen the amount of precipitation in Swift Currents about 86 millimeters of both melted snow and rain. Normally you would have about 91, so it's a little bit down, but this time last year was only 66 millimeters. So I think if things were perfect, we get a little bit more precipitation. Farmers need some moist snow, not the dry snow, but moist snow, and that typically comes in late winter and spring.
The normal daytime high for this time of the year for the Swift Current area is -7, with an overnight low of -18. Understanding Alzheimer's and dementia is the focus of an annual campaign. We find out more in this report. Dementia and Alzheimer cases are being diagnosed more frequently across the nation. And the Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan is suggesting a healthier lifestyle can coincide with a healthy brain.
So participating in activities that stimulate our brain can help reduce our risk of developing a form of dementia later on in life. And research really suggests that learning new things, like learning a new language, is really the best. It really challenges our brain and helps increase our cognitive reserve. It's also really important to stay socially connected. So by going out and visiting with our friends, having dinner or coffee, it can actually help improve our brain health, because when we're socially connected, we're mentally connected. Also really important to choose a healthy lifestyle, and the key really is lifestyle. So making healthy food choices, eating our fruits, our vegetables, making sure we get our protein, but limiting the red meat, focusing more on the lean meats like chicken and fish. Really important to participate in physical activity. They recommend a minimum of 3 times per week, 30-minute exercise. And the key is really cardiovascular exercise, so we need to increase our heart rate. What's good for our heart is good for our brain.
And dementia is now being diagnosed in younger individuals, with a direct link to head injuries from various sports or other activities.
Especially repeated concussions can increase our likelihood of developing a form of dementia later on in life. So really important when we're doing any activities that put our head at risk, like biking, that we wear our helmets just to protect ourselves.
And knowing the signs of dementia or Alzheimer's can help patients with proceeding with a treatment plan while still in the early stages. A number of programs are offered by the Alzheimer's Society of Saskatchewan on a regular basis through telehealth across the province. For more information or to register, contact your FirstLink coordinator.
I'm Vera Saltzman. I'm from Fort Capel, Saskatchewan, and I'm represented by Slate Gallery in Regina, and I am a photographer. It's just one of those mediums that I've always been drawn to, and it has a lot of versatility. Like, I think a lot of people now with photography think of iPhones and that type of thing, and they don't look at all of the different processes with film and alternative processes that you can use. Primarily, I work with landscape and portraiture, I would say. A lot of times I'm just looking for things that remind me of home, to be honest. So it could be anything. When I first started shooting elevators, I was kind of a little hesitant that it was, well, everybody shoots elevators, but you soon realize that people really appreciate the elevators, and it's sort of like, for me, they're like the lighthouses of the prairies. In Nova Scotia, where I grew up, people are trying to save the lighthouses. Here in Saskatchewan, we're trying to save the grain elevators. So definitely, I think that plays into it. I shoot with film, 120 medium format film, with a Hasselblad camera. So, and then I scan. I develop the negatives myself, and then I scan them and bring them into Photoshop and post-produce them there. I think a lot of times people question, why do you use film in this world of digital? But film, for me, really slows me down. I find that the digital world is really overwhelming. I don't know what to do with 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 pictures. 12 on a roll of film, I can manage. Once I scan the negatives and bring them into Photoshop to be post-produced, that gives me the opportunity to play with the palette and to play with the feel of the image. I think that there's a real melancholy about these images. They're definitely desaturated compared to a normal photograph that you might see. In the digital world, we have a real way of producing photographs so that they're very saturated, and now that's sort of what we're used to seeing in pictures. So to bring it the other way kind of throws people off a bit.
A documentary focusing on the story of Grasslands National Park was recently premiered at the Swift Current Museum and drew in a crowd for the evening presentation. The film, produced by Overtime Communications, tells how the landscape supported the various cultures of people who inhabited the area and how the dream of creating a national park was finally realized. Through interviews with park officials, local historians, and breathtaking imagery of the park's unique landscape, viewers are drawn into the many wonders of Grasslands National Park. The story of Grasslands National Park was produced in partnership with Tourism Saskatchewan, Grasslands National Park, Tourism Swift Current, Community Future Southwest, the Swift Current Museum, and the Cypress Hills Destination Area, and marks the 12th installment in the Stories of the Great Southwest series, which can be all found online. Well, this brings to a close another episode of Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you. We always welcome your news tips. You can always reach us here by phone at our studio or by email to contact us at southwesttvnews.com. Also, be sure to join us daily online for the latest news from across Southwest Saskatchewan and so much more at southwesttvnews.com. And be sure to follow us on a range of social media. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carol Andrews.